Ever feel like museums are, well, a little too much about velvet ropes and those quiet voices kind of vibes, and not enough about, really getting in touch with the past? Get ready to ditch those stuffy exhibits and actually step back in time at the Tenement Museum in New York City.
Yeah.
We're taking a deep dive into this totally unique museum, and we've got Roberta Hill along for the ride. She's a travel blogger who actually went to the museum and wrote about it on her blog, Traveling in My 70s.
Oh, cool. What makes the Tenement Museum so interesting is how much it really gets you invested in the lives of everyday people.
Right.
These stories usually get kind of overshadowed in history books.
Totally. It's like you're stepping into a time capsule, But before we get to Roberta's experience, let's set the scene a little bit. Picture this. The Lower East Side, back in the late 1800s, early 1900s.
Okay.
Tons of immigrants coming from all corners of the world, all chasing that American dream.
Yeah.
And get this, Roberta's blog actually had the legal definition of a tenement from 1867, and it ain't pretty. They call it any house with, get this, more than 3 families, cooking their own food, sharing halls, stairs, the whole 9 yards. Even the toilets, if you can call them that.
Oh, wow.
Basically, imagine cramped quarters, sharing everything, and, well, I can only imagine what it smelled like.
Yeah, you got to think about the historical context here. These immigrants, many of them running from tough situations back home, they came with almost nothing. New York City, as promising as it seemed, was bursting at the seams. Huge housing shortage.
Oh, yeah.
Tenements, as bad as they were, offered a solution, a way to at least get started in this new world.
They were affordable, which was a big deal back then. And Roberta, being the smart traveler she is, was thinking about that affordability factor right off the bat when she was checking out their website. Like most of us would, she was wondering if a membership was worth it.
Makes sense.
Single tickets are $30 a pop, which, let's be real, can add up fast.
Oh, yeah. Especially if you're with family.
Exactly. Roberta even pointed out that the museum relies a lot on those ticket sales.
That's right. Something like 70% of their budget comes directly from visitors buying tickets.
Wow, that's a lot.
It really shows they're trying to be accessible, keeping things affordable so more people can experience it. But it also makes you realize how important those memberships are. They're like a lifeline for the museum.
Definitely. And Roberta, being the museum enthusiast she is, went for it. Even though there were discounts for seniors, she opted for the duo membership. $125.
Okay.
Her reasoning. 2 tours, and she'd basically make up the cost.
Smart.
But here's where it gets really cool. She chose 2 very different tours.
Yeah.
Day in the Life, 1911, and Finding Home.
Oh, I've heard a Day in the Life.
Right. It sounds incredible. They take you on a walk on the same streets the Rogoshevsky family walked, a real immigrant family who lived there, and you even get to see their apartment, perfectly recreated.
That's what I've heard. The detail is amazing. They really went all out to make it authentic, using actual stuff from back then. Photos, artifacts. They even got stories from the families themselves, or at least, their descendants.
Wow. Talk about stepping back in time. One thing that really fascinated Roberta was how the Rogoshevsky family, just like so many immigrant families at that time, they rented out space in their tiny apartment.
Oh, wow. Really?
Yeah. To make ends meet, they gave up their own bedroom to squeeze in even more people.
That's wild. It just shows you how scrappy those families had to be, finding ways to adapt to support themselves in those cramped, tough conditions. These weren't just apartments. They were like little worlds of resourcefulness and community.
Totally. Okay, so we've got Day in the Life, all about early 1900s immigration, but Roberta's second tour, Finding Home, takes us to a whole different era, the wave of immigration after World War II.
Right, and that's where the museum really stands out. It doesn't just focus on one group or one moment in time. It captures the whole, tapestry of the immigrant experience.
Exactly. It's not just one story. Finding Home introduces visitors to families like the Epsteins, who were Jewish and had lived through the Holocaust. Imagine trying to rebuild your life after that.
I can't even.
Right. And then there's the Saez-Velez family who came from Puerto Rico. Each family, each person, carrying their own story of struggle, resilience, and that hope for a brighter future.
Absolutely.
It really makes you think about how the immigrant story is really so many different stories, right?
It is, yeah. It's not just one thing.
Each wave of immigration, each family, they all bring something unique.
Exactly. And the Tenement Museum does such a great job of showing that. It's not about looking back with rose-colored glasses. They don't shy away from the hard stuff.
Right.
The struggles, the discrimination, all the obstacles these families faced.
Yeah.
They don't sugarcoat it.
Roberta was really moved by the Saez-Velez family story. They dealt with so much prejudice, because of their ethnicity.
I bet.
It's tough to hear about. Finding jobs, finding an apartment, everything was a struggle for them.
It's a reminder that things aren't perfect. Even today, we're still working towards equality.
So true.
It's like what I was saying. The museum uses history to help us understand the present. By learning about these families, we can better understand what's going on in the world today.
Okay, so let's circle back to Roberta and her membership dilemma. It's what got us started on this whole deep dive in the first place.
Right.
2 tours in, and she's practically 10 can even. Seems like a pretty good deal, especially if you're planning on going more than once.
Totally. Plus, you got to remember, this museum is designed for multiple visits.
Oh, yeah.
They're always switching things up. New tours, exhibitions, always a different story to tell. You could spend days there and still not see everything.
I bet. Roberta said it reminded her that history isn't just dates and names in a textbook.
Right.
It's about real people, their lives, their dreams.
Exactly.
Stuff we can all relate to.
And that's the power of a place like the Tenement Museum. It makes you feel a connection, Makes you think, makes you question.
It makes history real.
Yes,
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've established that the Tenement Museum is a super cool, immersive way to experience history. But let's be real, not everyone has a ton of cash to throw around. Is a membership actually worth it? Like, for those of us on a budget.
That's the $1,000,000 question, right?
Right.
It really boils down to what you're into, what you prioritize. But if you're passionate about history, if those stories of resilience get you fired up, then I'd say the Tenement Museum is worth every penny, membership or not. Think of it like an investment,
Yeah.
You're paying for an experience you won't forget.
Roberta definitely seemed to think so.
Okay.
She got way more out of it than just facts and figures. It sounds like a pretty profound experience.
That's what's so cool about places like that. They stick with you. You walk away thinking, questioning, connecting with the past in a way that just makes sense.
It's making me want to book a trip to New York right now. But, okay, say I'm sold. I want to go. There are so many tours. Where do I even begin?
I know, right? It's a lot.
Roberta did 2 totally different ones, but I'm sure they have a ton more.
Oh, yeah, for sure. They have tours that focus on specific groups of immigrants, different time periods, even the buildings themselves, the architecture.
Wow, really?
It really just depends what sparks your curiosity.
Okay, so let's say someone's intrigued by Roberta's Day in the Life 1911 tour. What are the highlights of that one? What makes it so special? Well, you're walking in the footsteps of, generations of immigrants.
Right.
You're picturing those pushcart vendors, hearing the horses and carriages, maybe even smelling some delicious food being cooked up.
Yeah, it sounds like a real sensory experience.
Exactly. A total immersion into a world that's long gone.
And then there's the Rogarshevsky apartment.
Yeah.
Can you imagine stepping inside and seeing how this family, fresh off the boat from Lithuania, how they made it work in that one tiny apartment?
Right.
Roberta even mentioned they used the bathtub, not for bathing, but to do laundry for extra cash.
Talk about resourceful. It really puts things in perspective.
It does, doesn't it?
The challenges they face, but also how incredibly resilient they were.
Absolutely. And Day in the Life isn't just about this one family. It's like a window into that whole way of life back then.
Right.
The sweatshops, the labor movements, the fight for better conditions.
It's history, but it's also still so relevant today, all those conversations about social justice and workers' rights.
It is, yeah.
Now, for listeners who might be interested in a slightly later period, Roberta's other tour, Finding Home, which focuses on the post-World War II era, sounds just as fascinating.
Oh, for sure. Finding Home is really interesting because it looks at a time of huge change, both for the Lower East Side and for America in general.
Oh, yeah.
Think about it. The post-war boom, the civil rights movement, everything changing so fast.
Right, a whole new world. Roberta was saying how this tour really drove home the diversity of the immigrant experience.
Mm-hmm.
You've got the Epstein's Holocaust survivors trying to put their lives back together.
Right.
And then you've got the Saez-Velez family from Puerto Rico dealing with a new language, a new culture.
It just goes to show every immigrant group has its own unique challenges, but there are also these universal themes, those things that connect us all.
Totally. The search for a better life, the struggle to fit in, that hope for the future.
Exactly.
It's a powerful reminder that history isn't just something in the past.
Right.
It's still alive, still shaping our world today. So, if you're ever in New York City, do yourself a favor and check out the Tenement Museum.
It's worth it.
Whether you're a history buff, a traveler, or just someone who loves a good story, This museum is an incredible journey.
And you don't have to be some kind of expert to appreciate it. That's what makes it so great.
That's so true.
It connects with you on a personal level, makes you feel empathy, understand the forces that shape our world. It's pretty amazing.
Roberta's deep dive into the Tenement Museum really got us thinking.
It did, yeah. We went from wondering about membership value to exploring the lives of these families, the changes in a whole neighborhood, the resilience of the human spirit. It's pretty amazing.
Right. Who knew one little question could lead to all that?
I know, right? It just shows you everything has a story.
That's a good point.
Every object, every building, every street corner. Sometimes all it takes is a little curiosity to uncover those hidden gems,
Totally.
to connect with the past in a way that actually means something.
So next time you're planning a trip, think about exploring someplace like the Tenement Museum.
Yeah?
You never know what stories you might uncover, how they might resonate with your own life. It's worth a shot.